All right. This morning we get to talk about the issues in South Africa, where it's not been a good time, especially for the African brothers. Actually, I like to use that. You know, residents in South Africa other that are of other countries and what they have been experiencing, including Nigerians, harassment, protests have been happening, which some of the South Africans are saying, go back to your country. Actually, you should go back. For whatever reason, some of them are saying, oh, you're not supposed to be here. Is it because of crime? Is it because you're taking over our love interest? Is it because you are taking over our economic space? And in fact, let everybody go back to their country. And some of these videos are quite horrific, if you ask me. In fact, there was a Ghanaian guy that was descended upon by some of these headless mob, because you can refer to them as that. They attack businesses, shops, homes, individuals going on the streets. And one will expect some level of civility from a country like South Africa, in which you might want to give it to them. They have structures, infrastructures in place. But then when you see some of these images that we are having on our screens, moving about like you are still, in the 80s or in the 70s, and when some of them were struggling in Soweto with the apartheid, many of these, countries, including Nigeria, came through for them. But here we are, that our people that are supposed to be our brothers are now turning in on us, and we like to speak and expand our conversation this morning. What really is the reason? What is triggering this particular protest? And this is not the first time. There is a history to that over the years. In fact, in 2020 and 2019, it was so severe that Nigeria had to speak at the time. Remember that Buhari, and it was Minister Jimagobia that was there at the time, and it's a lot actually. So we look into that this morning. Why should people that we are supposed to be brothers be telling the rest of us to leave their country? Are they justified? Are there things that other African nationals, in this case, let's narrow it to Nigeria, are doing that is upsetting the locals in that place? Because we are supposed to be brothers. That is, the basis of our conversation this morning. And you can join us in the conversation as well on our Facebook at Western Spring Television, and on YouTube at Western Spring Television NG. All right. We have in our studios, a clergy, but beyond that, he has lived in South Africa before. So it will be helping us relay his experience. Well, what kind of people are they? And is there anything that you do that will upset them? Or is it their gene? Because we have to find an headway. The federal government is responding to this. National Assembly spoke about that, the Senate yesterday. And one of them is former Governor Shiomale, who was already calling for retributory action to say, if they are doing us dirty, we should give them that same energy back, by picketing some of their businesses, and so that they will know that you don't mess with Nigerians. But the Senate leadership are to rein him in on that. We understand a team or contingent will travel to South Africa, address the parliament to seek redress on this matter. All right, we have with us Pastor Steve Akiwumi, the lead pastor at DRBC and a former resident of South Africa who knows the terrain well. He joins us live. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Femi. I'm good. I'm happy to be on the show today. Thank you.
We are happy to have you.
Thank you.
But the conversation, we are not happy about what is happening. We'll look into that very shortly. Okay. And of course, we will be joined by former National Deputy President, Nigerian Citizens Association, NICASA, Oscar Emetoe, popularly, in fact, for short, Coach Oscar, joins us virtually. Good morning. Thank you for joining us, Coach Oscar.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
All right.
Good morning, Nigeria.
All right.
Good morning.
Yeah. Ordinarily, charity should start from home. But let me start with you, because you are there, right there in South Africa. And I like to ask, why are we here? What is the predisposing factor where some of these locals are now going wild and telling almost every black that they can see that is not of their own country to leave. Is there anything those African nationals are doing to upset them? And many questions. But let's start from there. Why are we having this episode?
Firstly, I'll say good morning, Nigerians, and everyone there in the studio. I feel this is more of a social complex issue, and it's not just a one thing. So we cannot just pinpoint it to one thing responsible for what we're seeing. Like I've said in other platforms I've spoken, I've said that this, or what we see as protest, is a reflection of people's frustration. It's a reflection of the failed system. It's a reflection of government not hearing, even when they try to say, we're feeling this way, but they don't seem to get to hear government speaking to them. So in a nutshell, I don't want this to be a nationality thing. I've always been very clear on that. We don't have to generalize, but we have to look at the root cause. Right. And the root cause is a lot. South Africa sits with one of the highest unemployment rates in the world, and it's also one of the most unequal societies. So the inequality there the gap is huge. And there's this competition for limited resources. We cannot speak or talk about this in isolation without not also going back to history. The black people in South Africa was deprived. We knew, and I think the outroar from the other African countries is understandable because I see it from both sides of the fence. I lived here, I do business here, and also I'm a foreign national like many others. So it's understandable when other people will say, if we are not welcome, or if Africa, for example, like Malema, like you played, would say Africa have issues anywhere else, why must it then happen again on the same continent? That's understandable. But however, the majority of black, which forms to some stats says 80%, are deprived. The wealth, the economy, is still not within their reach. And now you are having brothers who stood with them in solidarity when they needed the help the most, coming in, and the opportunities now seems slim. So everybody now seems to be contending with that very little. So for me, I will always say, the concerns are legit. We cannot play down on the concerns. The concerns are legit. There's high unemployment in the country, especially among the young people. The inequality is real. The wide between the have and the don't haves, it's just too wide. Now, people, and also systemic issues around immigration, which they are now putting at the front burner right now. Undocumented immigrants, people coming in without a document or means of how they came into the country. And there's also an increase in crime. So remember, when people have been pushed to the wall and they don't seem to find the people that's supposed to hear them or address the issues, talking to them, they look for who they could scapegoat. It could happen anywhere else. They look for who to turn to. And unfortunately, who do they turn to? The migrants. These are the people they could, oh, you're not like us. So yeah, the vexation, the anger is now directed, in my word, on the wrong people. The problem is not foreign nationals. Foreign nationals have brought in skills. Foreign nationals are contributing to the economy. They pay taxes. They are also employing or creating opportunity. And this is what we need to grow any economy. So, like I said, in a nutshell, it's understandable why they feel, why they react the way they do. It's a legitimate concern. However, the hate should be condemned, and have never shied away from condemning the hate. That's how we leave it at this point.
Coach Oscar, these xenophobic attacks in Nigeria, the one we are talking about right now, targeting foreign nationals, including Nigerians. In this instance, surged again between April 27 and April 29, 2026, causing and it's still ongoing, causing diplomatic tension, violence in cities like Pretoria, Johannesburg, and prompting Nigeria to consider repatriating, over 100 citizens. And Nigerian authorities are demanding accountability for deaths linked to these incidents. Just, some stats there. As I said, April 27 to 29, even up to now, targeting homes, businesses, including that of Nigerians. There have been casualties, and of course, plans of repatriation and diplomatic actions are being considered on this matter and the economic impact. So, before my colleague comes in, if you are saying it's a matter of misplaced energy, misdirected energy, it's not just about now. There is a history of this xenophobic attack. These social issues and high unemployment rate and all of these concerns that you are raising, that is making them to turn on, the migrants, seeing them as the problem. Has that always been the reason for these xenophobic attacks, or is only for this particular instance? I just need you to put that there.
If I would respond from the last part you said, I would say it's not only like what is driving this right now. You remember, this thing has been happening. The first xenophobic incident happened in 2008. That was the first blown out xenophobic incident that happened in South Africa. And ever since, there's been that little of gathering and voicing, all of that. We've been hearing that. And again, like I did begin by saying, I do not like a situation where we throw a blanket on every issue or in terms of generalizing issues. And I said that because South African, I wouldn't say are xenophobic, but that doesn't mean we don't have xenophobic people. There are those that are really championing this. That said, another issue we also need to be clear so that when we engage, we know we are engaging from a very informed perspective is the idea around propaganda. There are some of the things you see online, I will tell you, that are not true. So we have to distill between facts and reality. I haven't shied away from saying it's been long. In fact, let us say from 2008, when this incident happened. The question is, has government really been responding to the issues that are being raised? Where we know that some of the issues are something that cannot be met, the question is, what are the government actually doing to arrest those issues? Attacking foreign nationals, for example, when you transfer your aggression and government come up to say, we understand the concerns, but you don't have to attack foreign nationals. Now, the next thing, from an organizational perspective or leadership perspective, we would like to see is who has been put behind bars for XYZ actions? Who has been called to order to account for what happened wrongly? For businesses that have been attacked, for individuals that we see or some you've watched being driven out of the hospital for whatever narrative you carry. So that's why I said it's more systematic fault that we're not seeing leadership step up to address issues so as to deal with these issues that they are putting forward. You cannot just condemn and not be able to now follow up with action. That's where I said we don't shy away as an organization from saying, government, please go beyond. We see all you do, we hear what you say, but we also want to see that when we are being attacked, we want to see whoever, other individuals or the ones leading the protest, we want to see some people being called to questions. We want to see people being asked, why breaking the law? Because again, you cannot say there are lots of crime. Like I said, there are issues that surrounds this xenophobic or this protest we're seeing. Crime is one of them. I talked about unemployment, inequality, competition for minimal resources. Let's also dive into crime. We cannot say that foreign nationals don't partake in crime or they've not been caught. There are all of these issues. And it now comes back to the one thing I've said. when people are frustrated and are seeing that the government or the people who are meant to be responding to their issues or complaints are not addressing, then they look for who they can now pounce on. So it's more like a broken system. This is where we are.
Coach Oscar, I'd like to come in here. You talked about some of the reasons, and quite good that you talked about it: unemployment, marginalization, and all of that, and fighting for the tidbits that is even there for the people themselves to enjoy. But I'd like to take you back to some very, very important points there. Even here in Nigeria, we have, unemployment issues. We have underemployment issues as well. There are people of other colors and races right here in Nigeria as well. So now let's bring it down to South Africa, where we are having these attacks. I'd like to ask you if, honestly, people of other colors, the whites, the Indians, the other Asian, population that are there, and the others, are they also recipients of these particular attacks as well, or it's just to the blacks? And I'd like to ask you as well, what is the reason for this unemployment? Are South Africans skilled? Are they just deliberately marginalized, or they do not have adequate skills for some of these jobs that other foreign nationals are taking up? And why is it that it's only the black people that seem to be getting attacked? I'd like to ask you, please respond.
Yeah, on the issue around all of this protest, another thing we've been very clear about is it's more selective. We've seen selective attacks, and it's coming from people of same color like us, coming against the other nationals also of the same color. We haven't really have incidents, maybe a few isolated cases where we get to see other race being attacked, but it's really not been. So what we've seen, we witness, and from a leadership perspective, what we are we involve, because we deal with a lot of our citizens and other nationals that we do also engage with. It's more of Afrophobic, and we're not shy to say this is Afrophobic. It's black on black hate. That's what we've seen. And then the next question is, what is government doing to create jobs? Again, South Africa is not perfect, and just like every other countries with their own issues. There are countries that have strength in one area, and there's another that have weakness in another area. So it's all into what we summarize as socioeconomic issues that, like I said, we're asking government, because they are the one to address all of these issues. They are the one to create the enabling environment. They are the one, of course, job opportunities can be created from when you have an enabling space. So that's why the box still stop at the government. They are the leaders, and they should be doing that.
All right, reports survey that certain neighborhoods like Hillsborough and Jameson, I hope I have the pronunciation correct, are, specific hotspots, of these attacks. I'd like to ask you why. I mean, are there certain groups of people, that have a hit list, that are particularly in those neighborhoods and attacking people in those neighborhoods?
When you go to Johannesburg, I would say, let's refer to it like the Lagos of Nigeria. That's how Johannesburg is in South Africa, is the business hub. Hebrew, Jameson, there's somewhere else you didn't mention, Pretoria, Sunnyside in Pretoria. These are where, not just that we have lots of foreign nationals within those clusters or those areas, it's also where the people perceive there's high level of crime happening around that area. And you hear complaints around hijacked building, you hear complaints around prostitution going on there, you hear drugs being... So these areas are unique for this kind of concerns that the people are raising. So sometimes when you hear certain areas were being attacked, it's because of what they perceived as what is happening there. And because you have influx of also foreign nationals around those cluster areas, it's something that you can say, oh, okay, that's why the the traction gains more in those areas. I think that's what I can just see around that side.
All right, Pastor Steve, I'd like to come to you this time. You've also lived in South Africa. You've been a resident there, and you probably have even been there at the times where some of these incidents occurred.
Okay.
Just like Coach Oscar said, I'd like to ask why you think that, this xenophobic attacks are recurrent, and that Nigeria has not really been able to, have a rein-in on this situation. Why you think that South Africans are taking some of the steps at the time?
Okay, thank you so much for having me once again.
You're welcome.
I lived in South Africa between 2010 and 2013, 3 years. Within that period, there was no recorded xenophobic attack, but just a random attack. Like, for example, I as a person could have been a victim at some point as a pastor going into the local black community, preaching the gospel, and then with local putting knife to my side, trying to rob me. And I was smart enough to say, you can have whatever you want to have, just spare my life. And then they just left. But fortunately that day, I want to appreciate the police of South Africa that day. They came to my rescue, and they were able to apprehend those boys. I recovered all my items, and then those boys were charged to court. No, I was just fortunate in that. But while I was living there, I tried to understand the mindset of the local South Africans. And I saw that the long history of apartheid, they have not been fully healed from it. And there comes this saying that says that if you are not able to heal from those that hurt you, you will then bleed on those who did not hurt you. The whites who hurt the black South Africans, the black South Africans are not able to launch attack against them. That's why you don't find recorded stories about South Africans attacking the whites. But then they now see the blacks coming in, the foreigner coming in like the whites, coming to take over their resources like the white people came. And they feel that, okay, you guys are coming in here because you feel that South Africa is a greener pasture. We have an advantage to attack you where necessary. And so here comes a foreigner. You find Malawian, Mozambican, Zimbabwean, Kenyans flowing down from down to South Africa. And of course, Nigerians also plenty there, living there and then doing little business there. And over time, you see Nigerians do exceedingly well. And so there comes in this issue of rivalry. How can a foreigner come into this country? I live here. And this guy comes and opens a shop. And 5 years down the line, he's able to buy a house. How did he do it? So it is like, you're taking over my job, but that job was always there. You guys did not see it. So I see that the trauma is still there for South Africa. There's this issue of identity. And a number of them, what I don't understand is young people who were not part of the apartheid experience. But then the story have been passed down to them. So the hate have been passed down to them. And then thereby launching attack against fellow blacks. So I see it as an historical thing, not just social. There's a social dimension. There's also a political dimension. Some of the politicians also use that to campaign, to say that you guys vote for me, other black people are taking over. When I get in there, I'm going to do things better for you. I will block the borders and then make sure that foreigners don't just have access to this place. I spoke with one of the young men I mentor from here in South Africa. He's in South Africa. I was asking him, why do you think this is happening? He told me that where he lives in Pretoria, and he did mention that there is this recorded issue of stolen cars. And then because of the porous border between South Africa and Zimbabwe, the moment the cars they cross over to Zimbabwe, that's the end. So they interpret that foreigners are coming in here, stealing our stuffs, and also taking it out there. That's why this hatred continues to persist.
Well, thank you, Pastor Steve, for that perspective. We have a video of the condemnation to these attacks. We would like you to take a watch.
South Africans to Nigerians that are in South Africa, that they are on their own. So when the Senate of the Federal Republic speaks, it speaks more than the minister. It speaks more than the ambassador. It sends a clear signal that we can take revenge after diplomacy has failed. So it is important that the world should know that we are concerned. We have seen what they have done, not only to Nigerians, but we've seen what they have done to Zimbabweans, to Ghanaians. And you know, when you remove the Nigerian populace in South Africa, there will be no resistance whatsoever. Our people resisted it, and it is because in the course of resistance that they were lynched, killed in broad daylight. The South African security watched, and you could see them hiding behind these mobs. That means that particular thing, it wasn't just a mob, it was organized, orchestrated, and the government came with a very lamentable information that please stop doing this. Are South Africans not having military? Are they not having police? Are they not having other security apparatus? They do. And they have the gadgets, they have the ability to stop what has been happening. Have they done it? They have not done it, Mr. President. So it is incumbent upon the People's Chamber, and of course led by you, Mr. President, to speak seriously about this matter. And if this thing continues, we have alternatives, we have options, and therefore these words should be sent across to South Africa. We know where South Africans are, not only Nigeria, but all over Africa. And we can take this fight to their territory, if need be. But we cannot sit down and, typical of some of us, lament when these things is happening. There is no duplicate. Life has no duplicate. All of a sudden you are killed. Your families have lost you for no reason whatsoever. Mr. President, I think this is as serious as it gets. And today, sir, if this is the only thing the People's Chamber, the Senate of the Federal Republic will discuss, please be it. I thank you for listening.
Wow. Pastor Steve, you took a watch of that, video. That was both a condemnation and a call to action, at the, Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I'd like to ask you now, he was calling for retaliation of sorts, and on the papers as well, Oshomole was also asking for sanctions on South African businesses like, the ones you're familiar with right here in Nigeria. I'd like to ask you, as a person, a citizen of Nigeria, and as a clergyman, what should be the right call, of action in this regard? Should it be retaliations, like a fightback? Should it be sanctions, and how should it go?
Okay, thank you so much for that. Nigerians as a people, or let me say Nigeria as a country, we are like the father of the continent. If we take the route of fighting back, that wouldn't be maturity on our part, even though what is being done against Nigerians and other African nations is condemnable. But I will support sanction, economic sanctions, because we understand that we have a lot of South African big organizations in Nigeria here doing quite well. If you go back to South Africa, you don't have Nigerians, big organizations having their headway in South Africa. What you have is individuals just hustling and then, making it there. So even over time, I see inequality. It's like Nigeria is pampering South Africa. You have South African company come here and then overthrow Nigerian company who are on the same route of business. I don't want to mention name on that by the moment. So I want to agree with economic sanction. And of course, let's have conversation between the two governments. We are fellow blacks. Thank God we have black people as president, political leaders in South Africa. Why can't we sit down as fellow black and have this conversation? What is going on? And then let's come to a point of agreement and then have peaceful resolution on this matter.
All right.
That's my take.
Now, the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, NIGCOM, under Abika Dabiri Erewa, are strongly condemned renewed xenophobic attacks against Nigerians in South Africa, and they have been, responsive, calling for immediate intervention to protect citizens. And NIGCOM rejected profiling of, blanket profiling of Nigerians as criminals, actually, and urges South African authorities to ensure safety and prosecute perpetrators. By the way, we're supposed to speak with the NIGCOM boss, Abika Dabiri Erewa, this money, but then, maybe in the coming days we will. She declined. All right. So they are talking about protection. She's talking about Nigerians should be protected. That doesn't mean you will not have one or two bad eggs, just like we have almost in every nation of the world. All right. And the rejection of profiling, the diplomatic engagement, the National Assembly, just like you saw, are saying they are going to go to South Africa with their representatives to engage their own parliament. All right. But you've talked about sanctions and all of those things, but I will come back to you. Let me go to Coach Oscar.
Okay.
Coach Oscar, give us a sense of the South African system and the state, because some believe there is a subtle complicity, on the part of on the part of the South African government. They have not. I saw a video of the president Cyril Ramaphosa talking about they are not xenophobic and all of those things, but people should learn to respect the culture, the tradition of others, the communities in which they find themselves, so that everybody can live in peace and harmony. Well, why some might say that statement is just there. It's not really condemning anything. Is the system complicit in these xenophobic attacks? And is the state, the South African state, in a way, indirectly complicit? They don't really have to say, go ahead and attack people, but are they really coming out with very strong statement to say, this cannot go on, stop this, and let there be, prosecution of these main actors? Because we see in which these mobs going around, they pick a date, they pick venue, and they go ahead with it. Another day, they pick a date, they pick a venue, they go ahead with it, and the state is just there. Is the system complicit? Is the South African state complicit? In clear terms.
Thank you so much for your question. For me, what I would want to be clear here is that I wouldn't want to agree that the states or the state's institutions or any of their agency are complicit. We don't have that fact, so I cannot confirm to that. However, I also need us to be very clear here that the South African laws work. And when I say work, it works for everyone in the country, whether you're South African or not, or non-South African. It does work. Having said that, I also did say earlier on when we began that in as much as we've seen the leader or the president and every other leaders condemn or try to condemn and issue statements, what we as an organizations or community are asking is we want to see beyond just condemnation and comments or statements. We want to also see action. We want to see people behind bars. I was very clear on that. Now, the state is not complicit, and I wouldn't want us to go in that path. I did say earlier on that every country have its own social or concerns, issues. So I feel this is one of the issues that the government seems to be struggling or also trying to deal with. Let's not forget that. This xenophobic thing might be unique to them or particular here to them. However, other countries does have their own issues. So I believe just like every other people finds way to solve a problem, they are also looking for ways to address. Let's be clear again. When you talked about the picket dates, they assemble, one of the rule and law here is that people have rights to association. Let me take you back. If you did hear, I know you followed, the uproar regarding the Nigeria King installation. One of the things that the same people argue was Nigerians have a right to association, because some people were like, but why should people come here and assemble and then they're thinking of installing a king, all of that. But some people came to disapprove that. But like what the pastor in the studio is also saying, we have genuine people. We cannot use isolated incidents like what you or we see or witness online to define a people. We as Nigerians wouldn't like such blanket naming.
Is this not one too many, actually?
Exactly. That's where we're going. This is where we're saying, fantastic, we call, we are demanding, we are on our own part as an organization. We are always just saying, sir, we also need to see action. We want to see you. But again, can I bring this into how leaders, because they are political, and election is forthcoming, the local government election is coming up towards the end of the year, I think November, he belongs to a party. They will need the same people to vote for them. So what do you expect? Even when he speaks, he wants to find a way to, yes, condemn, because what is happening is not also good for South African image abroad. So he will want to find a way to tell investors or every other people who looks up to them to say, listen, guys, we don't tolerate this. But again, they also need the same people to remain in power. So you could see how tricky this could be for them. Like we say, we are asking, and the government says they are working. Immigration is one of the core issues they are putting on the table now. Too much influx of undocumented people, and all of that strained resources or service delivery is being strained because of foreign nationals.
Kochaska, you mean for political, in some cases, for political expediency, some of them might not want to be very categorical on reining in their people to stop these attacks, because Nigerians will say, when you guys were going through the troubles of apartheid, the African continent, and in fact Nigeria played a lead role. Now, for whatever local issues that they are having, marginalization, work insufficiency, job issues, and all of resources and all of those things, there is still a way in which a noble society will say, we have our issues, let's deal with it. If there are Nigerians that are involved in crime, let the state handle it. If there are Ghanaians, if there are Ethiopians, and by the way, we are talking about now, Ghanaians, why are they not turning on Tunisians? Why are they not turning on Egyptians? The Arab guys on the northern part of Africa, why always the southern part of Africa and the western part of Africa? Why are they not turning on the other guys from the northern Africa?
Let's look at it this way, from the angle of visibility. The people, the group you mentioned, like I did say, this is more Afrophobic. We cannot take away that. It is Afrophobic.
Those guys are Africans.
But again, we also, the people or the group you mentioning may not be as much in terms of numbers compared to the other ones that feel more attacked. So visibility comes with its own challenge. It exposes you to stereotype, it exposes you to scrutiny, resentment, because you are more visible. All right. Now, like sometimes here we say, maybe out of every 10 blacks, 7 are most likely Nigerians. That's visibility. And because we are very visible in the informal sector, in entertainment and entrepreneurship, it's as a result of how visible you could see a people that you can say, okay, I pass my anger, or the transfer of aggression is on. Again, I also do understand, and I think I did say this in my opening comment earlier on, that South Africa holds a long history of solidarity across the African continent. So it's understandable when the rest of Africa are like, why you? Why are we seeing this from you? It's understandable. But again, we cannot now just blanket them with xenophobia and leave it like that, or tolerate what's happening. We should, I feel, look at it from a challenge that they have, that the rest of the continent needs to call them to please find solution to this, because the issue around this attack or Afrophobic affects the rest of us. I feel maybe looking at it from that angle might be more a balanced perspective than just to maybe want to put it straight out there that the system seems to be complicit, the system seems to be allowing such, they have the right to association. The court uphold that for them, so they can associate. But again, what the court will not allow is when you now do this and commit crime and break or destroy people's businesses. Those are what needs to be challenged and condemned.
All right, Coach Oscar, I like to, say it this way. Nigerians are visible almost everywhere they are. In Europe, they are visible. You can go to the UK, the US, you see Nigerians, and you find them visible, even in the face of good hands that are in those same countries as well. But we'll talk about specifically South Africa this time. You talked about 2008, occurrence of xenophobia. And then coming to 2019, where we saw a peak of the violence as well. And now we have it in 2026. There is only so much a people can take. And we're talking about patience, tolerance levels wearing thin. You've talked about the complicity of the government of South Africa in this, marginalization things, the fact that, probably porous borders, the immigration thing and all of that. Is there no way, just like my colleague alluded to the other time, a sane community that is diplomatic and all of that, because we have diplomatic ties, with South Africa. Diplomacy can be employed. What are the parliamentarians in South Africa doing with regards to this? What are civil society organizations doing with regards to this? What is your own, side doing, Nikasa? What are you doing to lend your voice to the fight against xenophobia? Because like I say, it's only so much a people can take.
No, you're very right. And I want to say I concur with you in that. There's so much people can take. And if a problem seems to persist and continue, it looks like it's not been addressed. And anyone could or should ask, why should it persist? Not because like Nikasa or the Nigerian community are not doing a lot, but there's so much we too can do. Don't forget we are also foreign nationals. And the country has been kind to, some of us would not experience it. The hospitality is there. I cannot take it away. I raise a family here. So I wouldn't say I've been directly affected. But that's not to also say we don't have those who have been affected, whose cause we have maybe issued statement. We've seen some of our nationals that were killed. And I can tell you in 2024, we were able to get justice for one of us that was killed. We pursued the case until the culprits were sent to jail. I think about 2 of such instances during my tenure as a leader. But again, I like to look at issues from a very balanced perspective. Tell me any state or country that is perfect without issues. There are. That's why I said, rather than us just sit and probably, yes, what we're hearing is not what we love. It's not what anyone wants to. I know how many families call to just be sure. My province is very safe. But how about the others in the other provinces? So this call for concern. If for me, rather than the protest of what the people are saying, that's why I said we cannot downplay their concern. Instead, we're saying, please, channel it to the system, channel it to people who can actually give you an answer. If they need to tighten their immigration system, it's not foreign nationals that needs to do that. It's the states. So channel this. What are members of parliament or civil society doing? That's where your organization comes in, the media. Because this is also more of a systematic framing by media in terms of what they put out there. I say this because there was a protest that had over hundreds, maybe thousands of people that protested against xenophobia. We never saw it online. Maybe very few. I don't know if you saw that protest of genuine people who stood up. These are South Africans of different colors who came together to say, no, we are against March and March. We are against the other one, Operation Dudula and those other names. We are against them. But the media do not help to also put this forward. So feel it's more like a conspiracy than to put out these things to divide us, instead of also putting out people who speak against these ills. Lastly, and you ask, what are the civil society, the government, the parliamentarian, even the system agency, law enforcement, what are they doing? I was clear when I said we cannot blanket South Africa and say they are xenophobic. That would be wrong. However, that's not to say there are no xenophobic people. So these xenophobic elements could be probably found in those places you call, I don't know. But there are not been any established system that is complicit. There's not been any agency or government person that stands to publicly endorse. Instead, they condemn. They may say it in their personal capacity. We don't know. We don't have that measure or anything to follow up to know where you stand, how at that. That's why, again, we are also speaking up and ask all the leading voices, influential figures, what are you saying to all of these things we are seeing? Let me end with this. The pastor in the studio talked about some politicians who thrive in the waves of this just for vote. It could happen anywhere. They are selling tribalism. They are selling sentiment. It's now becoming more of this tribe versus this tribe. I'm sure you've seen one of the videos this year, yeah. One of the videos where they attacked someone thinking he was a foreign national, only to later find out that he was not. He was actually a local South African. So we've seen all of this. Again, this is why we condemn xenophobia, Afrophobia. We condemn all of this criminality. And we are asking that government can please step up. I believe by the time we see one or two persons being called to account for their actions or what they are sowing out there, or calling out some political figures from making some inflammatory comments, maybe, just maybe, that might be one of the ways to resolve these issues. I'll leave it at that.
All right, Pastor Steve, I'd like to ask you now, more often than not, Nigerians are, always on the receiving end of violence, not only in South Africa, other countries. You find them, especially when economic situations, frustrations are boiling over. But let's narrow it down now to South Africa. Would you say that our government too may be complicit in this? Because if we organized our own country, probably Nigerians will not be going out in their droves, to different countries, finding their footing in different countries. But I'd like to ask you, why is it that Nigerians, are most times on the receiving end, of bout over frustration from South Africans?
Okay, thank you so much for that question. And before I answer that question, I'd like to also explain the way this South African society is structured. When I was in Cape Town, I lived in a place called Muizenberg. It's a white-dominated area. Such areas like that, you will not find attacks because it's grossly dominated by white people. As a matter of fact, when I was living there and pastoring in the black community, when I go to the black community, they look at me as a white person because I live among the white people. So you have the black community far away from the white community. So where you have the attacks are principally in the black communities. And then there you find foreigners, Nigerians, Ghanaians, having their small businesses going on there. That's why the question you asked earlier on about why is it that other people from other nations like Tunisia and Indians are not being attacked. You may not likely find those people in the black community. They stay in the white community. That's why they will not be attacked. It's not just because of the number, because of Nigerians are visible. That's not. Now, let's come back home. Truth be told, if our nation is better organized in terms of economy, I'm sure that many Nigerians wouldn't go out there looking for any greener pasture. I also understand that Nigerians, I don't know, by nature or whatever, will love to travel. Now, I come from a part of Osun State where my people travel out of Nigeria into Cote d'Ivoire. So I'm from Ejigbo.
Okay.
Now, if you look at the population of Ejigbo, 1963 and 1991, you see that 1991 was less than 1963 because there's a lot of migration going on there. And then even the same thing happened in South Africa has also happened in Cote d'Ivoire before, especially in the days when Super Eagles used to beat their football team. Anytime Super Eagles beats Cote d'Ivoire football team, Elephant, there's an attack against Nigeria until that commit time, things became resolved. So Nigeria government needs to do better. Young people. Now, if Nigeria have to travel abroad, let it be that, okay, I'm going out there for further education or I got employment. There are many cases of Nigerians who don't even know what they want to go and do out there. Just want to escape from this place. And thinking that when I go out there, I will survive somehow. There was a video I saw where in Kenya, the Kenyan ladies came out protesting that why is the government, why the immigration people sending back Nigerian men to Nigeria? That these Nigerian men are our own husbands here. That the Kenyan men are not marriageable to them. That why are you sending our own husband and the father of our children back home? I am telling you this today, that one of the things that is also happening in South Africa is Nigeria get there, makes the money, and when he makes the money, he marries South African beautiful lady. So the South African guy feels that you have come, you took my money, now you're taking my babe. So kind of. So it's all interpreted as you are coming to take over whatever it belongs to us, just as the white came and took over our resources. Why will the black man also do the same thing to us?
So there is an element of jealousy.
Definitely there is.
Which becomes hatred.
Definitely. It's an element of jealousy.
Because of this issue.
Exactly.
Because the guy comes into that community, he hustles, does as many businesses as possible, he has the money, and then he begins to flex.
He can afford.
Luxury.
Exactly.
And express.
And
because
express.
They say Nigerians are expressive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In fact, they are afraid of Nigeria because they feel that Nigerians, we are very outspoken. When we get to a place, we dominate. That's just who we are.
As a
people.
All right. So, let me quickly go to, because we are on the stretch right now. Coach Oscar, you are there right now, and let me ask you, categorically speaking, as of this money, there have been advisory from NIGHTCOM, telling people to stay indoors and all of those things. Countries of the world, whenever they think a terrain is not good for their people, roll out advisories. The UK will do that, the US will do that. Nigeria is doing that as well. But as of this morning, how safe is a Nigerian if actually he or she goes out today? Realistically speaking, how safe, how protected is the life of a Nigerian?
I think let's look at it from this angle. South Africa, it's safe depending on where you are. I'm based in the Western Cape, like the pastor in the studio have said. My province is maybe safe, but not because it's that safe. That are among the top 4 areas of high risk in the country, still falls within the province. But anyway, Nigerians are safe. I'll say that as at last night's community engagement that we had. Nigerians are safe. Following or regarding the NIGHTCOM advisory lockshop and all that, that was during the protest. Every of that have ended, so most people have returned back to business. We are safe and things are going well. But if you allow me, there are some things I want us to also look at while we wrap up.
Yeah.
I will highly, highly recommend that our government, please, they are doing that much. We're following, they've asked us to identify people who might want to come back home following the incidents, or probably who feel they can no longer cope in South Africa. We're busy with those arrangements for repatriation. We commend our government on that. And we will also just ask for more. We ask for more. We ask that more of our citizens be looked after. There are most of our businesses that were destroyed that we never got any form of help. Because we're foreign national, we can access some form of credit here to get the person to restart. We're asking that our government should please help us. And Pastor make a very important point out there. While it is good, that's why I said I love when the media put out there an informed information so that we don't put down one while trying to establish a point. It's not going to be fair. It's either going to fuel division or escalate it even further. We will use this opportunity, not just about our country, Nigeria, but every other African country. For how long can we, all the other countries, begin to issue statements and ask South Africa to be tolerant? Let's look into the issues causing some. I will admit that migration is about as old as humanity. People have the right to move. However, there are people who have no business to live in the first place, who just left because of bad leadership or economics in their own home country. All leaders need to start looking into this part. Then, when it comes to why Nigeria, please, Nigerians are not the only victims. And again, Nigerians are not completely out of when you hear picketing of crime. I live in a community where a Nigerian cult group came and opened fire, openly shoot. You can ask the pastor in the studio. You don't open, in fact, you can't even just hold a live gun in the public. Nigerian cult group were shooting in an open place. That's the kind of thing. Because of my leadership, some of their top police officers, they have my details, and some of the leaders, whenever anything happened, we get to be notified. Who are these people? Why are they doing this? We have some of our guys who have zero means of, you cannot see their visible means of livelihood, but drives and allowed with their wealth. The people ask questions. So when they say, please respect the laws of our country, I want to use this opportunity to call on our brothers. We tell them, we say it to them. Some of them don't respect the laws. So when you hear, it's not like Nigerians are not hardworking, they are. But we still have among us those who do criminalities. This is why South Africa sometimes
I was going to come to that, because to ask, are there ways that Nigerian nationals, is happening, this thing is happening to the blacks, actually, most nationals of different countries, but because we are Nigerians, that's why we are narrowing it home to say, are there ways that even some Nigerians are contributing to these hatred, that, possibly respect for the laws of the land? I remember there was an issue like that in Dubai, all right, where some court groups and all of them are Nigerians who are pursuing one another, breaking glasses, and of course, what we got after that was a visa ban from the UAE, and some of them attacked a jewelry shop and all of those things. Are there ways that we are doing that, and what is the organization doing to tell our brothers, yes, you can associate, you can do your business, but you must respect people, and you have no business there, go back home?
We from time to time do this. From time to time we hold meetings. That's why I said we will appreciate media also helping in putting out messages like this. We do call out our people. Yeah. But again, here's the issue, like some that we have raised even before the embassy or ambassadors. And I remember one statement from one of the ambassadors, I won't say the name, who we didn't bring these people, and we might not be able to just automatically say we're sending them back. So continue to pass the message, tell people to avoid crime, stay away from crime. But again, you cannot just say, when you say that, they listen. There are those that listen. I share, in fact, there was a circular from the new ambassador, Neka, the one that just came, I forgot her full name. She issued a circular a few days ago, calling on Nigerians to be law-abiding, stating out to what extent the embassy will be there for you. If you are caught in drugs, if you are caught in, some of them run brothels, some of them run like some wrong businesses. If you are caught in such, the embassy, unfortunately, will not come in for you. Now, just like Dubai acted, I think these are these snippets of issues that need condemnation, because hate, in my opinion, do not operate in a vacuum. We also need to look inward and tell ourselves the truth. What is driving this? We know we have counter most of the points that they raise foreigners are taking our job. It's not true. We don't have numbers that back that up. Oh, foreigners are stressing our facilities, our schools, our hospitals. We don't have numbers that back that. So where it comes to facts and numbers, we counter them. And we don't counter them because we can say what we feel. No. We speak from official figures. Their stat essay. We generate data there and then says, but this is not what your official figures is saying. Taking job, but no, there's nothing backing that. Much more, you ask the question, why did this visible to this resentment? And there are good Nigerians, I have to tell you that. There are Nigerians that are pulling. I don't want to call names, but I can tell you there are Nigerians contributing immensely to this economy. Those are the people we decided we need to also start amplifying so that it's not just about, oh, Nigerians commit this crime, Nigeria does this. No, we've been speaking to some of our good people, doctors, some, like I said, we don't just want to level this to just one person or a few, but I knew so many of them, doctors, nurses, and lecturers, business individuals that are doing immensely well here, employing people. But we must balance the truth. That's where your media comes in, or every media houses comes in.
All right, Dr. Oscar.
Everybody acts right
I'll
to
take
do the
that
right
as your
thing.
part in short because we're really totally out of time. But quickly, in 30 seconds, Pastor Steve. So you have a diverse ministry. What message would you tell or send to a South African who is battling, economic and financial struggles and needs the command to love his neighbor?
Okay, thank you so much. I want to say this to South African over there. Number one, go to school. That's very important because when I was there, one of the things I encouraged the young people to do is go to school. In fact, there was a lady that she said her parents didn't have money. I was the one telling her what is available within our nation to embrace bursary. She didn't even know about that. So I'm thinking, you are in South Africa. Why wouldn't you know this? So don't be depressed. Young people especially, you did not experience apathy. You were only told the story. Don't be depressed.
Thank you so much. Pastor Steve Akiwumi, the lead pastor at the RBC and a former resident of South Africa. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for having me today.
For having. Now, of course, we also spoke with the media director and former national deputy president of NICASA, all right, Oscar Motoe, Coach Oscar. Thank you for your time, Jessica.
Thank you so much for having me.
I wish you all the best. All right, this will be the size of the program for today. Nigerians living in South Africa, all across the world, be law-abiding. Do your business, but then be circumspect with your lifestyle as well. There is no place like home. It's here that you can do falafel, as we say. Femi Ojo is my name. And let the Nigerian state come up and stand and be counted at a time like this.
Join us for the penultimate installment tomorrow. My name is Temitope Ajijola Oluwala. Be on the good side of the law.